But thank you everyone for coming. This is Mr. Lowell Jaeger, who's here to talk to us tonight. And thank you, Lowell, for traveling all the way over here to talk with us. We appreciate it. Yes, I'll let you take over.
Well, I was telling Samantha from my driveway exactly where you turn in by the grain silos there is 300 miles. Flat, 300 miles. And then when I first pulled into town, I went over to the high school there and I taught the high school class. And I was so impressed between, then I bummed around town a little bit, went to the grocery store and went to the little coffee shop there. And everybody in this town seemed really, really friendly. It's pretty nice. Yeah, really. So you must be doing something right here.
I saved you a charity.
You did?
I did.
Good.
I knew your cake, but I didn't bake a cake.
Good yourself.
Yeah, special. You don't have to taste too much. How are you?
Good yourself. Glad you were here.
Thank you. They're both
So this is a big crowd, believe it or not. Yeah, this is another sign to me that there's something very functional in this community that you get this many people to turn out. That's great.
You're that we're just really damn bored.
Or
There's nothing on Monday night.
And there's that.
So I'm gonna value, there's a truth teller. I'm gonna value in this conversation. But I've been doing this for Humanities Montana for many years at this point, and I'm just loving it. So I go to many different, especially the little communities like this, and sometimes 2 or 3 people come. And that seems like failure maybe from the outside, but it's really not. It's 2 or 3 very appreciative people. And I was telling Samantha that, next year you come back and you get 3 or 4 people, and then the next year you get 5 or 6. And it's something that sort of takes time to build up, but it's another way to sort of make community. So you all know, you were just talking about a radio station that you were listening to and got turned off because things didn't seem very conversant. You didn't seem to be like, there was people actually talking together. There were maybe people talking at each other. Am I right?
Yeah. It's not like YPR or National Public Radio. They're always talking to each other.
All right. Yeah, we needed to throw in that NPR plug there anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, what I do is I try to model a discussion that begins in neutral territory, right? So that we learn something about what we have in common. And then we can move into, a more contemporary or difficult question that once we have established this rapport with each other, it's so much easier to talk about. So it's not a battle, it's an attempt then to try to understand each other. Right? So this is going to seem a little strange at first. I was telling the others that oftentimes when you tell people to sit in a circle, anyway, there's a kind of nervousness. Like, oh, we gotta hold hands and sing kumbaya or something, No, we're not gonna do that. You can participate in this in whatever way you feel comfortable. I do hope everyone gets a chance to talk, and I hope, so if you're a quiet person, I hope you find it somewhere there that you just get brave and chime in. And I may try to even call on you, each of you, at one point or another. And sometimes people just say, no, we just don't have thoughts there. And that's okay too, And if you're a talky person, try to let other people in, right?
You're looking at me.
I looked at that one first.
And those are the really, the only ground rules. And then, just that we're trying to understand each other. We're trying to listen to each other and understand each other. So we don't cut each other off, and we, are here to not convert anybody to anything, just to try to understand differences of opinions and, the validity of all our positions. And I'm going to do this by first giving you a couple of little, kind of like easy exercises and some moments of silence. And sometimes it's those moments of silence that at first people go like, oh, this is kind of weird, because here I am sitting in this group and everybody's not saying anything. Just trying to live with that silence, and no longer than 60 seconds at a time. But you'll see how 60 seconds of silence can seem like 6 years in the penitentiary to some people, Okay, so questions to start with, anybody? None of you have been in any of my groups before, huh? She was saying she heard me on the radio years back. I want to start with introductions. So yeah, my name is Lowell Jaeger. And I teach at Valley Community College. This is my 40th year. I have students coming to me now and say, "You had my grandma." I'm like, "Whoa, that hurts." That just hurts. So what else can I tell you? 5 kids, 6 grandkids. Now I'm living part-time in Tucson, Arizona too. It's a nice getaway. But let's start with you. Could you tell me your name?
Kathy.
And Kathy, if you could choose one word or phrase to describe yourself, what would that be?
Accomplishing.
Accomplish. Okay.
Whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Okay. And your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. If you could choose one word or phrase to describe yourself, what would it be? Caring. Caring.
Rosemary.
Rosemary. Same question.
It's a tough one to pick up.
Go for a couple. You're a rebel. I can see it now.
No, okay.
Rebel.
Thanks for the help. My name's Margie.
Margie.
2 E's. I don't know. Caring.
Carrying on. Okay. These are gonna go to the IRS. Oh, no, maybe not. Go ahead.
Yeah, one word is tough, but I guess the one that came to me tonight is empathetic.
Empathetic. Tough and empathetic. And what's your name?
Paul.
Oh. And then we got Sam. Sam, what would you choose?
Passionate.
Passion. And
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Easygoing.
Easygoing.
Sissy.
Sissy.
Determined.
Determined.
Emily. Frazzled.
Frazzled. Yeah, she had a look on her face when she said that too. Cynthia.
Try to control yourselves.
Try-
Doesn't.
That's true. Pleasant, okay.
D, attachment.
Compassionate. So I didn't tell you mine, did I?
No,
So I'm Lowell, and the word I always use is a student. So I see students every day, but I still feel like I'm the student. I learn from people like you. And it's a great education. People have a lot to teach each other. All right, so we've accomplished that. Now I need you to do, I'm going to give you 30 seconds of silence, and I need you to think a moment about a time when you were in the business of either building a wall or bringing down a wall, tearing down or bringing down a wall. So choose one or the other, and just think about when was it that you had, you know, and you're not going to even share these, just hold them in mind, okay? Tearing down a wall or building a wall. So 30 seconds. See another good sign here? There's no clock on the wall.
There's no
So
clock.
I'll pretend I have a watch. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, that's about 30 seconds. For 30 seconds, seems like a long time when you're in the car. The thing is that we can't take 30 seconds more often just to sit and consider something during our day. I know it's hard, I have trouble finding that kind of thing. So, did it work? Do y'all find one? Do y'all find something? So, can we just do a show of hands this way? Is how many of you, when you thought of this, thought of tearing down or deconstructing a wall? Tearing down. And how many thought of building a wall? See, we got a nice divide. That's good. It's hard when everybody starts to agree to have a good conversation. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you a little something we're gonna read, and you can just pass it over this way. And I pass these over this way. Be sure Sam gets a copy too. And somewhere, somebody's got mine with all the names on it. Thank you. Yeah, they should all be the same. All right, so can I get somebody to volunteer to read? You got it, man. Paul. Just read slow and use your booming voice so that we can all.
Mending Wall by Robert Frost. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I've come after them and made repair, where they left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at a spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to keep to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves and some are nearly balls with to use a spell to make them balance. So where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another of our outdoor games. One on the side comes to a little more. There's where it is we do not need the wall. He is all pine and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across his and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I build a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was to like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, it wants to come down. I could say elves to him, but it's not all elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savaged arm. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me. Yeah.
Did it get cut off?
Now
Yeah.
I've learned.
I thought that was a odd place then. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only, in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors.
Thank you. Excellent. I appreciate it. Appreciate your bravery. And there's that spot there where it says something there is that doesn't love a wall that wants it down. I could say elves to him. And in one session, the guy misread it and said I could say Elvis to him. I remember looked up Elvis. Elvis. He's back. So it's always a good idea with something like this to read it again. So can we get another reader? Volunteer? Thank you. So, Stephanie, right?
Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I've come after them and made repair. Where they have left not one stone on stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the elfin dogs, the gaps I mean. No one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time, we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, on a day we meet to walk the line, and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each, and some are loaves and some are so nearly balls. We have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game. One on a side, it comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I asked to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage arm. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only, in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. So we read it once and we read it twice, and we can just paraphrase without interpreting. Just what's a kind of scene or story here, just to make sure we're all kind of on the same channel. Anybody? Yeah. So a sentence or two, like if somebody said, well, what's that mending wall all about? What would you tell them?
So one neighbor wants the wall and one neighbor does not.
How do you describe the situation, just literally, physically? Where are these guys and what are they doing?
On their land, walking their fence line.
Yeah, well, we do that here in Montana, don't we? Only we don't have fence lines and boulders from the fields. More oftentimes we have barbed wire. Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
I wouldn't say the one guy doesn't want the wall. Looks like hunters have damaged the wall, and the one neighbor definitely wants to put it back up. The second guy helps him, but he's just quizzical as
So you're
to,
onto something. They're having a dialogue, aren't they?
right, why are we putting up the wall? I mean, he's willing to do it,
So
but he's
we,
wondering, what are we fencing in? What are we fencing out? Why do we keep putting the wall back up after people destroy it?
excellent. So we've got two guys with a wall between them, and they're tending that wall, and they're having a conversation, and one says something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down, and the other guy says, yeah, but good fences make good neighbors. So do you see the two sides? Something there is that doesn't love a wall and wants it down. But good fences make good neighbors. So let's pretend this is no longer a democracy. I'm gonna make you vote. I want you to take 30 seconds to decide which side you're on. Now, I know that you're all smart people and you can see a justification and a criticism for both sides. But if you had to, this is called a thought experiment. In a thought experiment, you get sort of forced into choosing one side or the other, just because it's going to propel our conversation. It will help propel our conversation. So just take a moment and 30 seconds again, and just decide for yourself, which side are you going to take? Something there is that doesn't love a wall, or good fences make good neighbors? Thirty seconds. Okay, you ready to vote? So raise your hand if you are something there is that doesn't love a wall. Only two of you? All right, I'll jump in on that team then too. There are the three of us. And raise your hand then if you are good fences make good neighbors. Wait a minute, you gotta vote.
I abstain, I need more research.
Say that's fine.
Well, I was kind of thinking the same thing, because, I mean, it does ask, what are we walling in or what are we walling out? So that does make a difference, like,
Start there. Like, why would that make a difference to you?
well, I mean, it says there's no cows, but what if there's something else? I mean, you gotta keep your cows.
Like buffalo.
Yeah, you have to keep whatever out or in, if they're yours or someone else's.
Okay, so
I have a friend that is an artist, and she always wanted a rock wall for the artistry of it, because she liked how those things fit together. I don't think she was particularly caring if she kept anything in or out, but she always wanted to build a rock wall just because. Does that make sense or not? Because she always just,
Mhm. Look, to
just,
look at.
yeah, to look at mostly, not.
So Emily or Emily, Sissy, and me, we're the only ones that are saying something there is that doesn't love a wall, right?
Well,
Are there any others?
I'm kind of like him. It's like, are we just putting a wall because that's how it's always been?
Okay, that's another good question. You're already, this is a group of thoughtful people. I can see that already, because you aren't leaping to some simplistic conclusions to start with. But just to play the game, let's the three of us at least take this side. And because we're in the minority, let's us three express first why we decide that over good fences make good neighbors. Well, how do we justify to these guys that we vote that way?
Well, the only way I can justify is there's no details of why we need a fence. Why do we need that fence? I understand good neighbors, but you can be good neighbors without a fence, but there, to me, I can't say I'm gonna put up a fence because I have a neighbor. Why am I putting up that fence? It's like when you put up a wall to people and you don't know anything about that person.
So you're advocating then, before you put up a wall, you need to have good reason to do it, good,
Correct.
okay. All right, that's a good start. I like that. So,
Kind of along those lines of, if every year they have to come back and fix, it's just the two of them that are coming back to fix this wall, and there are these spots where it keeps being destroyed or removed, or like, so then there's, I don't know, the same amount that doesn't want the wall there. Plus the guy that's like, I don't know, why do we need the wall? So there's.
So you're just trying to avoid work.
Because she's frazzled.
That's right.
That's how she described herself earlier. Not my word.
Then you make a good point. So you're saying, oh, it just seems like it's a futile task because it keeps falling up. All right. And if I were to, I've been on both sides of this question because we are just playing a game here in a sense. As a person now on this side of something there that doesn't love the wall, I think that's really an important point. Is if you look around in nature, etc., walls are always coming down. Nothing stands for long. You could think of, say, Hadrian's Wall in Great Britain. That's some of the biggest achievements man ever made on Earth. Stuff grows right over it after a while. Something there is that doesn't love a wall. Right? So let's turn to the good fences make good neighbors. Convince the three of us that's the way to go. Who wants to start?
Well, if you go beyond this.
Why are you looking at me, neighbor?
You guys got a lot more miles of fence than I do. You got more from the fence than anybody here.
There's inside information here.
Yeah.
So
She didn't appreciate that comment.
Yes.
Okay, Kathy.
Going beyond what this is, to me, putting up the fence just helps a relationship, knowing where the boundaries are, that your boundaries are, whether it's a physical fence or whether it's a emotional fence. The fence is just a really good way to start a communication, and everybody understands that that's where the line is. And then if the line is wonderful and it's a great interchange, then you would put the gate in. But the fence just helps two strangers know who you are and where your lines are.
Talk more about the gate.
Well, and then when you get to know that person or your neighbors, we're talking here, then you see the joy of it, and then you can open the gate and it goes both ways. And it's just, but you still have the boundaries. You still have that. You're not changing your boundaries, but you're just opening up to be sharing.
Okay. Stephanie, you were nodding as she's talking. Can you add to that?
This one's hard because when I was thinking about it, I wasn't thinking about their friends, I was thinking about like our town, or, and I have a dog, so I need to fix the fence. She likes to run. But but if we're going into this, I would actually maybe if I'm these guys and there's only pine trees on one side and apple trees on the other side, and there's nothing, no animals, nothing else getting in the way, I would be on the guy's side of like, why am I building this fence? If we're just.
You're already changing
I
sides.
know. if
The
I'm.
scenarios, but she's changing.
Yeah, it depends on the scenario.
Yeah.
If we're talking animals and stuff, then yeah, the fence needs to be.
And what you just did, Stephanie, you brought in your dog.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay. So you're relating via outside the poem. That's okay. We use the poem as a kind of springboard, but if you see an example in your own experience that helps us deepen the conversation or recognized more of the complexities of the issue, great, add it in, no problem with that. But you haven't convinced me yet, you guys, on the, good
It might
fences.
depend on who your neighbor is. If it's my sister living.
There are lots of variables, lots and lots of variables.
Talk about the variables.
Well, I mean, just from a, like I say, kind of more the practical sense is, we have a big fence around our yard, but keep the deer out. I mean, the deer in Fort Benton are awful, if you have a garden or anything, or flowers, they'll just eat everything. So I guess on the practical side, that's where I was coming from.
What are other variables?
Well, I mean, I love open spaces though, too. You know, that's one of the reasons I think a lot of us live in Montana, we love the open spaces and, you know, sometimes you don't like to see the fence. Whether you want to do exploring or hiking or whatever. So I'm on both sides too, I guess. Depending on the
This isn't gonna-
situation.
This isn't gonna work. I need some narrow-minded people. Can we recruit?
I still think of fences from my first viewpoint of artistic. I mean, I think fences are just extremely interesting. You know, the fences out of wherever
It's like wagon wheel.
the wagon wheel fences, and I just think that fences are extremely interesting. The things that people build fences out of, you know, just from an artistic point of view. I don't ever really think about what they're keeping in or keeping out, because I think a lot of people just have fences that they do look at artistically, and it's not really
What's the
to,
point of the split rail fence?
or a toilet fence.
So you just, toilet fence, what? What did she say?
That she's got a
She
toilet
has one
fence.
in her yard.
You can go by, it's kind of on your way home.
You can see it from
And so the
space.
facilitator
Yeah.
is dumbfounded
Is it-
and doesn't know what to say.
Is
Toilet
that
fence.
practical or aesthetic?
I prefer to think that it's aesthetic.
All right,
In
but-
town?
Oh, no.
You're out towards Chester? Yes,
Apparently. I talk to you on the phone all the time. I work at the newspaper, and it's nice to put a face to
Oh,
your,
well, thank you.
yes, out near Chester. As
Okay,
Schwan man
I've
said,
been by
"Brilliant." Little kids have been by it. But I really think of fences as more of a artistic kind of thing. I mean, we were in Denmark several years ago, and everybody's got a fence. And they're all just extremely interesting. They just are. Here, fences are kind of, cow fences, when you think. Well, we were coming from Bozeman a week ago out of Three Forks. There's like miles.
Oh, that really tall.
That really tall fence. And I think sometimes fences make you think, because we're all used to the same kind of fence, pretty much. I think we would agree. And this went on forever. It just, I don't know, it was like an elk fence or something, but. Well, no, because Buffalo, we have Buffalo. If Buffalo want to go, they will go.
They
You
don't
know.
show, it doesn't have to be tall.
It doesn't have to be tall, it doesn't. But I don't know, I just kind of think of fences as an aesthetic kind of a thing.
And are you saying in some ways then it can be a sort of expression of the
So-
maker?
Yeah, like self-representation almost,
Self-representation,
like
like the way.
kind of
someone-
off of Kathy's boundaries, but then also you can make it aesthetic or to your liking.
Oh,
almost.
yeah. I mean, I was trying to think if it was on What the Hay, if it's in, not Utica, but there's someplace there's a fence that's got a lot of like license plates and stuff like that. I just think that people that do interesting, not that all of us that have 1,000 miles of fence posts and stuff, but I think that people, use their imagination with fences.
Okay. So let's keep, you guys are doing split hairs falling apart really quick. Let's try to keep the split and I want to ask this question. What about fences or no fences? How does that affect human relations? You had begun by saying something about it. Can you say more about that?
Better.
Makes it better.
It
Okay.
makes the communication between two people or more than two people clear, whether it's a fence of emotion or who you are, or whether it's a physical fence. It still makes it really clear who you are and where you stand, and it just helps me communicate better. I know where to go. I know where not to go.
You literally know the boundaries.
Yes,
And
and
I
I
was
just
just gonna ask you to insert the word boundary.
yes, it's a boundary.
I think it's a sign of respect.
Talk about
I think
that.
a fence is a sign of respect, like you said, we have a lot of, that's fine. But to me, it's not that we're keeping something out of our place, but we're keeping what we have out of other people's places or other people's land, or, you know, I mean, it's respect for other people to have that fence. Like, we're gonna keep ours to ourselves. And it's not that we don't want to be friendly, but we're also not going to, you know, like, I don't know what the word. Intrude on others with our own, like, okay, so we do have cows, so we're not gonna, you know, we don't want our cows to go on to this place, but they might, which it happens, but we don't want that, you know, to be known, you know, to have that, or I don't want that to happen. You know, we should take care of what we have, and it shouldn't be going out onto other people's land or whatever. So I think it adds respect for others.
Respect for others, so you can put up the wall then, not trying initially at least, or purposely, or primarily to keep other people out. You're showing respect to them by sort of containing yourself. Is that a good way to put it? So now I'm gonna play the devil's advocate, because you guys gotta help me out here too, okay? Because we're a very small group here, but I have a neighbor in Tucson who is very boundary conscious, and we live outside of town, so it's a little community called Picture Rocks, and it's smaller than this. But he's very, very conscious of his boundaries, and he put up a fence and he puts up, stay out, private property. He flies a flag that says, don't tread on me. He's got these gargoyles up that sort of look like mean, angry stuff at his gate. And he's got a sign that says, warning, aggressive bee study in progress. And it's a total lie. There's, you know, I was for a moment gonna put up on my place, I was gonna put up aggressive bee rehabilitation center, peace and love. So I'm being devil's advocate here. So his boundary seems to me not to be what you're talking about. His boundary seems to me very clearly say, keep out. I don't want you. I'm fencing myself out. I'm trying to exclude you. I don't want you around. Help me.
He's not trustworthy.
Say it, what? Go ahead, talk about it.
I don't think he trusts people. Something in his life caused him not to want people to come into his life. He wants to be alone, and maybe could be he was raised that way or whatever, but.
Ironically, he's an ex-cop.
Oh,
He doesn't want to get shot.
No, say more about that. Yeah, you're doing good. I don't want to derail you.
no, but I think we have all within boundaries. I think even forming relationships with strangers. We have a boundary that we put up that we want to get to know them before they cross that boundary, that we get to like them, I guess.
So with that boundary, there's also a sense of security that comes for you inside the walls.
Yes.
Okay. And is that part of your fence too?
I know what you're trying to say.
I mean, I
don't-
just think
yeah.
it's not like I don't want to shut people out, or we don't want to shut people out, we don't. But it's, you know,
So like I have 4 kids, and so I wanna make sure if we go into like a public space, like I make sure I'm like, we are gonna sit to them, I say between here and here. Cause we don't need all of our shoes and coats and wrappers and everything going into other people's space. And so you're trying to respect those around you by keeping within your own. Is that kind of what you're?
That's a good example. See how that example really helped ground our thinking? Helped us sort of understand more about what you're saying too. Okay, that's a valuable moment when you can think of those concrete instances or something. Okay? So you're keeping your kids from biting other people. She's keeping her dog away. All right. So, but let's get back to something there is that doesn't love a wall. So I'm still feeling that sometimes, I mean, like, do you ever drive by a state prison? Of course you have, haven't you? And you've seen the wall, right? And the concertina wire, etc. Right? That wall is really a wall, isn't it? And what's the difference? But how come some walls are okay? I mean, some walls look so not okay.
Some walls look like protection. Those walls are protecting us from what's on the inside.
And some walls are more of a barrier like that. I think it's like as a barrier.
We talk about Texas, that's trying to be a barrier.
Talk about a wall.
So, say more about that. I mean, it seems
Well,
I thought it is. Go ahead.
I happen to think that we need the wall at this time. So I'm one of the people that think that that wall would really be helping our country to have a wall there, to have more security and have more control over who comes in and when they come in and what they're gonna do when they do. So it's important.
And
It
so,
protects me more. That wall would protect me more.
so it's interesting, you don't have to push this to that point, because that's a very contemporary issue on all of our minds, isn't it?
Right.
We really think about that a lot these days. And we think back about, you know, the early days of immigration, and, you know, Staten Island and the Statue of Liberty and all that. And, you know, when we had something there is that doesn't level wall attitude, a whole lot more prevalent. And we said, come, welcome, 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 right?
With the gate.
With the gate.
They had the
right?
gate.
So,
They didn't just let them swarm in.
newspaper lady, you're gonna have to get more info on her, because she's got, okay, talk
Well,
about this, talk about this. Let her go a little bit further, so. Can you throw the gate in there? I think it's really valuable. You were just saying again, with the gate.
Well, Staten Island, but if.
Right, is that what you meant? I was gonna ask you what you meant.
Yes, you went through, and I read the books, the history, that you didn't just get to walk in. I mean, there was a strict way of getting those people where they're supposed to be and how and who they were and all that stuff, and that works. That works. It helps control the situation. Same with Texas today. It would help control the situation if they would all go in like they're supposed to. Into the country. Or into my yard, or we can make it smaller, or into Geraldine. We're not a gated community, but in a way we are, because we all know everybody. Strangers come in, we know.
We have a thing on, maybe, what do you call it, Paul, when people have to put up fences to contain their cattle, and you can,
Open range.
no, not open range. If all the neighbors get together and complain, and then you're forced to put up a fence to contain your cattle.
I thought it was the other way here in Montana. You had to put the fence up to keep their cattle out.
It depends if it's
What?
open range or not open range, and
Yeah.
part of some parts are open range and some parts are not. And then you have, and it's kind of an archaic rule, and why it is and why it isn't that way. I hit a cow one time, and the cow got out where it wasn't open range, but where I hit it, it was open range, and I didn't have to pay for it because cow got out where it wasn't open range, or where it wasn't open range. So I should have kept it in, should have kept it in, and then I hit it on the road, and it, you know, so I didn't have to take care of that. I didn't have to pay for it. But it was a quarter of a mile the cow traveled a quarter of a mile, but where it got out was,
She would have hit it there.
yes, that was the issue, so.
Think about the musical Oklahoma, the cowboys and the sheep guys. Cowboys wanted the fences and the sheep guys wanted open range. So that sheep could just, apparently sheep eat everything, I don't know. But you know,
So one thought I've been having since the very first exercise you gave us, you wanted us to think of a time we either built a wall or took down a wall, right?
Good.
So I thought of one of each.
Okay.
So I don't know if I think you had said something about it, so, and then Dee has also touched on it, so. When you put up a wall to like protect yourself per se, or a boundary, and that's where the boundary comes in, right? You can't really get to know somebody really well unless you
Open that gate.
open that gate or take down that wall. But sometimes to protect yourself, you have to build a wall, you have to make a boundary, a solid line where this is. You know, so then your example of the prisons with the, or concertina wire, like, my kids went to a school in Idaho where we were a private Adventist school, and they had a 10-foot regular like school fence, but with big spikes and wire around it, and it wasn't to keep the outside world safe from what was inside of our playground, but theoretically, I guess, to keep the kids safe from what could be on the outside come in. So it's the same fence. Like if you were to drive by that building, you wouldn't necessarily know that it's a school because it's got that same.
Can you tell us your examples of when you thought of an example of tearing down your own building wall?
So they both had to do with relational walls. So we've had a lot of conversations over the last year, in the library setting with, which is why this is great, because this fits right in with our whole, it's a thing about sitting down with people that we all have more in common than we don't. And so to take the opportunities to do that. So I've done a lot of work that way, trying to take down my own personal like biases, the wall of my biases, to be able to sit and talk with people. Versus with some other relationships in my life, I really had to finally just say, this is where this line is, boundaries, and if you can't respect that, then this is what will happen.
So, you know, that's a different
Metaphorical walls.
metaphorical walls, yeah, okay, that's okay. We have, it's a difficult life question, isn't it? When do you let other people in and when do you keep them up? When do you? Teach me.
When you start to feel comfortable.
Or uncomfortable.
Or
Or
trust.
uncomfortable. One or the other, you let them in if you're starting to feel comfortable. But we all know at this stage in our game here that can change. And you push them back out of your area and you shut the gate. I mean, but at the time, if you're comfortable, and you're trusting, then of course you let them in.
We can expand on that.
Well, I was just thinking about what you said, when you know, like in relationships, when you have to say, that's it, you know. I mean, I'm thinking if someone's getting hurt or, yeah, I mean, hurt in some way, I think that's a time when you have to say, you know, there's a boundary there, you know. You have to stay up.
So it seems to me, you know, just listening, that we drift really quickly to talking about those boundaries and putting up guards and keeping people out. How do we do the opposite? How do we let people
I kind of think on both sides of it, it's about ownership. So you have to take ownership for what boundaries you would like, what things you will let into your life, and then ownership for your own opinions about somebody and whether they are allowed in your life or not. And that's a decision you have to make. And so it's really on you and your.
Once you make that decision though, how do you let them in?
A little at a time.
Yeah.
One foot.
The gate's got a very creaky hinge, you can hear it just squeaking open.
And you don't always have to agree to have a good conversation to let somebody in to have a conversation, but you have to be mature and accepting enough to accept other people's feelings. And I think we've gotten away from that.
Talk more about that.
Well, I think if you're an adult, you should be able to agree to disagree or try to understand where that person's coming from and not be defensive if you totally separate. But you need to understand and respect if they have an opinion, they have a feeling, that you have to try to understand where they're coming from, because we can, even though you disagree, you could understand what that person's talking about and go, okay, I understand, I don't agree with you, but there's no reason we can't have a cup of coffee, you know? And I think as a society, not even just here, overall, we're not doing that anymore. It's okay to have an opinion, it's okay to have a conversation. It's okay to go, Kathy, I don't agree with you. And she's like, well, I don't care either. Let's go have a beer. You know, but you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? People aren't doing that. And it's like, you don't have to fight. You don't have to hate each other. You don't have to do all of this, whatever's going on in the world. Sit down and have a cup of coffee and respect each other.
Can people on either side of a question, like we're talking about these two guys on the opposite sides of the wall, say the immigration question again, can people have opposite views of how that should go, how our immigration system should go? Can they have opposite views and still want the same things?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is a hard idea, I think, for people to express it. I'm not quite sure I have it clear myself. Help me understand that. Why do you say absolutely?
I think absolutely. Kathy's all for a wall. I'm from Texas originally, so I understand where she's coming from. She wants this wall built, which is going to be expensive. My opinion is, I agree. There are certain ways and regulations how people should come around. Building a wall and spending all that money, to me, it's not what I would think. I grew up also in a military family, and I think if we have other resources to help control it, because Border Patrol, I mean, you may have one for hundreds of miles. So she wants the wall, I don't, but we agree there should be a way for them to come across legally in a productive way.
So that's
The end result
excellent.
would be the same.
The end result would be the same, but
Exactly.
you come from different sides.
Correct.
All right, we're done here. No. Yeah,
I wasn't clapping that we're done, I'm clapping that was such a great example.
I was just hoping we're all drifting towards donuts and coffee.
We're done. Are there cookies? But we had a neighbor, we had two neighbors that farmed next to each other. And the one neighbor felt that the other neighbors wasn't taking care of his weeds well enough. And it escalated until the guy on the one side built a fence to trap the guy on the other side's weeds. And it was starting to get alarmingly, I felt, out of hand. You know, the neighbors were all kind of nervous. The two guys are best friends now. That if one of them's gone, the other one watches the guy's cat. You know, I'm not sure where in the transition of, and it was acrimonious. I mean, and somewhere in that transition, everything
Fence
changed.
fixed it.
Well, no, there's
Because they
still,
had a beer.
there's still, there's still
Here.
See, it's just, that's the weirdest fence situation I'd ever encountered, and you know, we've had dinners at everybody's house, and and stuff, and I don't know where the change came. If the one guy finally decided that the weeds weren't that big deal, because the other
Is there
guy,
a fence?
huh?
Is there still a fence?
I think
I
there
think that's
is.
a great example, though.
I think there is still a fence, but all of a sudden one day when it, well, we're gonna go down and take care of the cats when they're gone, and I'm going, really?
Because if
You
you
know?
don't, so then they both could feel empowered though, because the one guy he didn't care about his weeds, and he didn't.
Well, he didn't really have, it was
Oh,
a
but I know,
fence
but
that
then
was
the other-
up against the end of a shelter belt, and this guy, the guy that was accusing the other guy of having too many weeds, he took excellent care of his shelter belt. And I always looked at it, you've got birds flying over that are dropping weed seeds on
But then
the,
they each felt, because then he built a fence, that was something he could do, that he was
I guess.
empowered to do, and it kept the peace.
Kept the peace.
They each,
So,
the guy that had the weeds or not very many weeds, he didn't end up, it's not like the other guy sued him and made him build a fence.
oh,
So I don't want to derail this because I think we're at an important spot, but let's go back to so here's these two guys and they have different points of view, but somehow now they're both getting what they want. Okay, and let's talk for a moment about, is there something common between us all that we want? What do we want as citizens, as people, as homeowners, as property owners? What do we want?
To be understood.
To be understood, that's a good starting point. If you can say anything more, what do you mean by understood?
I think if you're trying to understand somebody, you're listening, active listening, and hearing them.
Okay,
And like what Paul said, empathy. You have to be empathetic. And that's another part of listening and understanding.
so if people are empathetic towards one another, they're understanding one another?
I think that's a start.
That's a start? Okay, yeah.
It means you're trying, it doesn't mean you're
Right.
necessarily gonna understand.
Right. And then agree to
Doesn't mean you're
disagree.
gonna understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Empathy means you're trying. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And understanding that they've got a viewpoint, so there's a reason where they're coming from where they're coming from.
They're not just crazy.
No,
yeah,
Yeah.
you want,
but I don't know if they.
you want a wild example of that?
Sure.
So when the planes flew into the towers and the towers were coming down, most of the country was like, oh my God, we're being attacked. One of my very first thought was empathy for those people that flew the planes into the tower. What happened in their life that drove him to that point? Something horrendous happened that they got to the point that they felt it necessary to do that. So that's where, and of course, I didn't tell this to everybody,
Right. Yeah.
What?
but I instantly would,
She works for the newspaper.
yeah.
You just have now.
Yeah.
Now everybody knows.
Yeah, but I have told people that. But my thought right away, I mean, yes, I'm sorry for the people that were destroyed on the other side, but right away I had empathy for something drove those people to think that that was necessary for them to do.
Something basic in what a human needs was missing for them. Is that what
Right.
you're saying? Okay,
Right.
so that's what I'm getting at here is what is it basic that we need?
Love.
Can you add to that?
Well,
It says love, okay? What, you mean, love is such a slippery word.
Well, I mean, like.
Connection?
Bonding, like the baby to bond with their mother or their parents, bonding
Bonding, okay.
with someone.
That's what I think about mass shootings, is what you think. I feel terrible about all those people that I always think, what happened with this person? I always do.
Right.
Something awful happened with this person.
Well, and the other thing that everybody, people are looking for is that their children can have hope for a better life. We all say, oh, we all want love, we want this, want that. But so much basic, if people that have a child, one of the most basic things they want or have is a hope that their child can have a good life.
What is a good life? What is
Safety, food, safety, and a chance to fulfill something in their life that they want to do.
Value.
So, yeah,
Value?
Values, yeah.
so all these people in Palestine, I mean, they want a good life for their child. Everybody wants that. These people living in the tent cities in Syria and Jordan that have all fled, people in Ukraine, I mean, they're all wanting a good life for their children. And when that can't happen, that's when people do things that are out of whack.
This is great. Now, again, I'm the student, because I'm really, this conversation that I do very, very often has never quite gone there. You were brave, you were brave. But it's so important. If I'm imagining now, and help me with this, if we could think like you're thinking, that the opposite side, who seems to be crossing our boundary, wants the same thing we want in a very basic human way, is there a way then that we can help me ask the question? Do you know where I'm headed?
To provide that?
Yeah,
Bridge the gap.
bridge the gap.
Well, you keep thinking they wouldn't keep coming if they didn't want something better. You wouldn't walk 10 million miles, 1,000 miles. And they all say, I want this for my children. They still want what we have. Look at what we have, basically.
Well, and I think it's the hope for something better, that hope. They
Right.
don't have anything
Right.
to hope for in their own countries. And so they see that, and the hope that they could make it better for themselves and their children is what drives them to walk the 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
So is it a basic human need to have some hope?
I think so. I think along with safety and security, you need hope. Yeah.
And lacking that hope, would that drive people to do things like you're talking about, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, the endless
join
despair
gangs.
without
They
hope.
want joint, that's why somebody might join a gang, so their acceptance of family, getting, yeah.
Sense of
Community, but
Is that why people are, I think about trust, about like the people that died at, what was it, James Jones or whatever that Jones? They trusted him so much and.
Drank the Kool-Aid.
He gave them false hope.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's
Yeah.
still-
Yeah.
But it was enough
And I've
hope
seen-
to keep them
It was.
under their control. Yeah.
So hope can go awry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But finish your thought. Lynn.
Well, I think of people that are not blackmailed, what do I wanna say? Influenced that they should do this or not do that, and people, like.
Brainwashed.
Brainwashed is the word, and I think a lot of people are so brainwashed that they can't make a decision for themselves.
So I just started taking some notes because I'm the student, right? So, we talked about, you want to be understood, and we mentioned then empathy, like, let me be who I am and express who I am, is being understood, huh? Does that make some sense? What are the limits of that?
As long as they're not hurting anybody.
As long as they're not hurting anybody, okay? Go ahead.
Can we have laws that people respect and the victim isn't punished or ignored and said, well, it's your own fault because you did this or this?
Rosemary, right? Say more about that, because that's a good point. Can you explain more about what you're saying?
Laws,
Okay,
but a lot of times they're upside down, it seems to me. I hear stories of them going to court and it should be a open and shut, and it goes the other way because of what the judge, I guess, feels. And people accept it. I know when you're defending your own home and somebody wants to come in and take your home. Okay, so do you not defend your home and your family? And yet there's examples where they get taken to court because they had a gun or something,
Well, it's a tough thing to defend your home. Those two young high school girls that drove into the wrong yard a year or so ago, and a guy ran out with a shotgun and killed the one girl just because they were lost. He was defending his own home. And,
It wasn't here.
No,
no,
that wasn't here.
Wasn't here. But it just got settled. The guy just got, convicted. You know, but he's, oh, well, I'm gonna defend my own home, but
And they were just turning around or something, weren't they?
yeah.
They
They
were
were
just
just-
Wrong driveway.
wrong driveway and he came out and shot them.
And so, yeah, I mean, and yeah, we all want to, you know, right to defend our own home and everything. But everybody's got a different point to where to draw that line. My sister has paperwork drawn up that if she was ever murdered, she wants to make sure that that person would never get the death penalty.
Why?
Because she's just against taking life at any level.
Okay.
And I don't think she would defend herself. You know,
Not with a gun, she would.
no. And yeah, so she doesn't, you know, like a real,
There's groups of people that believe that too.
yeah.
Amish are one, I believe. They don't like to defend themselves to that point.
Yeah.
Quakers.
Quakers.
So, part of my training is they always say, leave your discussion at a high point, don't beat the horse to death. And you guys have done an excellent, excellent job here. We pushed this question of, you know, starting with just this goofy poem, right? Sorry, Robert. But I mean, you see how we started on sort of a neutral ground to begin talking philosophically, and then we, what is it, induction or deduction, where you go down to the specifics, I forget the two terms. But we went from the general to more particulars. And that's oftentimes a good strategy in trying to talk about difficult things. You know, you start with neutral ground and you start on less than personal basis, and then you push it a little bit closer. And there's a time then, you know, you've all experienced this, I'm sure, where you shut it down because it's getting too close, you know. But there's a time when you open the gate. We've always, that gate you brought in earlier is useful to think about. So I would, go ahead.
So, doing some of the, oh, no, I don't think the word, like advertising and stuff. So the title of his presentation, if, I don't know, if you, it's the art of meaningful conversation. So I think one of the things that, I mean, this is great. And just the phrase, say more about that.
Yeah. So
is
you're watching the
so
technique. Yeah.
much, because like I have a new friend, and that friend, like I'll make some kind, not a flippant comment, but just a, you know, you just kind of throw out a sentence and they will say, we'll say more about that. And then you really got to think about your answer. Because I think there's so much animosity in our world today, and it's so hard. Like the internet is so pervasive, and so it's like I'm in my own echo chamber. I'm not gonna try to deny that. Like I surround myself with who makes me feel good and the things I want to hear, right? I don't want to be, because then you never know. Then you never know if, and only because it was brought up tonight, if the person you're talking to wants to build a wall or doesn't want to build the wall. And then, so you don't want to say the wrong thing. So it's just easier to say, man, it got warm today. That's a lot of water out there. Like that's so much easier than saying, you know, or if somebody, you know, if were to come up to me after and say, oh, you picked your word was frazzled, say more about that. Not simply, well, you know, what's going on? Well, you know, I've got 4 kids and I'm doing this and that, but like just to keep it simpler and to be open. I don't know. I think it's like, because it's meaningful. I don't really like small talk that much. I don't like, I'll talk about the weather. We do live in Montana, but it's important. It is important. But so much of it we can start to realize so much. And then, so we live in a time now with technology, we can be more connected than ever before in human history. And yet the loneliness epidemic is real.
Yeah.
And so when you keep it super surface, super small talk, and you don't have meaningful conversations, that's why
we've had a variety of evenings in Fort Benton at the library where it's focused questions, and either one night we had lots of questions and the next night we had not as many, but to sit down. I mean, Carolyn and I work together all the time, and I've learned more about her at those than because, we're saying, well, who was that that came? Oh, or what did you ever do last night, And so that art of meaningful conversation where it, like, you kept it very, I feel, I don't know, I have felt very pushed this evening just by saying more about that.
Good, say more about that. No, no.
Well, I think having a few like phrases like that, just kind of
Tell me more.
help,
Can you clarify
to have,
that? Help me understand.
some deeper conversation.
Well, sometimes I think as an older person, I've talked to people and somebody will take up the conversation, they'll say, well, this is what she means. And sometimes it isn't what I mean, but give me a chance to speak what I want, but, I find that with older people that other people won't let them speak, won't let them talk and express their values or whatever they want to talk about.
So this reminds me that we started out with your word, and let's just give a moment here before I'm going to close up in just a second here, but let's just give a moment, if anybody wants to explain their word, or if you want to tell us your example that you had of building a wall or tearing down the wall in your head that we started with. Just, sometimes people have something that they still want to say there, but they haven't had a chance to express it. Anybody?
Well, I was thinking about the Pleasant, and this whole half of the room laughed hysterically. But I thought I was gonna die a couple summers ago from my heart. Well, I didn't I?
You didn't die, but
I didn't die, but I thought. And when I went to Missoula, and when we got to report back, it started out, we met with a pleasant older woman.
Hey, that's better than some other ways.
I know, but I mean, I don't even remember reading the rest of the thing because I almost couldn't get past the line, And I mean, I think we all hope that we're pleasant, you and I are. But it's, this group wouldn't have used pleasant, because
you're a joy to be around.
You have your moment.
But, I don't, and I understand, this is my daughter, I understand what she meant by frazzled. They lived with me for a year. We were all frazzled, and I feel like, every Monday when I have to call you and say, I dread calling you and saying, do you still need that ad? And you go, yes, and I always hang up and feel terrible.
We don't anymore, though, now you can feel all better.
But you just always wonder, why people.
What's she going through?
Yeah,
We need to tell them.
I know, and I had to call you all those million Mondays, and when I just went, oh, please, and I don't want to have to, but I don't know, pleasant.
Well, what about
Very
this gal in Missoula?
What?
That you said you thought she was pleasant.
No, that was me. That was me. That's what the doctor said about me. I'm going, really?
She was even confused.
And we call each other.
I know, that's why she was confused.
So just to wrap this up, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds again, then let's just go around the circle for one last thing, and just say, the term takeaways. Like, every time I do a discussion like this, there's something sort of surprises me, and I take that away, especially, what especially are you gonna take away? It doesn't have to be something that surprised you, maybe just some casual comment somebody made that just struck you that it's worth carrying beyond this. So just take 30 seconds and let's each hear from everybody, just a sentence or two, and then we'll have our donuts and coffee there. So, okay, 30 seconds. Okay, because I'm the requester, I'll go first. And so just briefly, when I spent 2 years as the poet laureate of Montana, I did go to all sorts of little communities, and I was in Sydney, Montana, which is damn near North Dakota. And I gave a presentation to a bunch of sixth graders in front of me there, and afterwards, one little guy comes up to me, and he's about this big, and he's got Coke bottle glasses, and he says, "Thank you," and I said, "Well, what'd you think of that?" And he said, "OSUM," and he ran away. And I thought, OSUM, I'm driving home, all of a sudden it hit me, awesome. That's what I think of you guys. When you come to a place like this, I've never been here before, and you don't know the people there, but what wonderful people exist in all these places, what amazing things you could do. Thank God for libraries.
Yes.
That's community, so we're doing community, so something good is happening here.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, in this experience, I would like to take away with me that if the opportunity arises, that I would give a little more time to that person than I do today. And that's very difficult. But I would like to do that because there's very good people that you don't give that moment. And this gives me that moment.
That's great. Stephanie?
I was just thinking how much I enjoyed this experience. I was almost not gonna come. I was watching it with my husband. I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I promised I would be there. So anyways, I'm
Good.
glad I came.
All right. Bring your husband next time.
Yeah,
She
I
tried.
tried.
Stephanie and I worked together.
Oh, yeah.
I think you did a great job of taking a poem that, to me, is kind of obscure of what it means, and digging it out of all these people and having it go how long now? Hour and a half?
An hour and 15, yeah.
I think you did a great job.
Yeah.
I know to use tell me more, that kind of thing, but I'm really gonna make an effort to use it even more. And, so that it becomes, instead of me just starting to spout off, be a better listener and ask me for more from the people, and especially people maybe I don't understand. Or I don't, maybe we're not on the same page 100%.
Wow, yeah.
I teach little ones, and a lot of times with parents, you're not on the same page, but I don't know where they're coming from. I don't always understand their background. And so, if I knew more, maybe it'd be easier to understand.
And probably at that basic human level, we want the same thing.
Oh, yeah, well, definitely, you all do. You want the child to succeed or whatever, but sometimes there's a misunderstanding because I don't understand where the parents are coming from, what they experienced at school. A lot of problems come from what the problem the parent had in school. It isn't what you're doing with that child or what that child is doing. It's something 30 years ago. And maybe I took more time to figure that out. It might be better.
You are an excellent teacher.
Well,
I think I could improve.
Oh, you're way too kind. Too kind.
Yeah, good luck finding enough time to learn what they're all about. God bless you.
Yeah, I'm gonna be done doing it pretty soon. And I'm gonna try to figure you out.
Yeah, the community ain't gonna do that. Yeah, using that phrase, I guess that's something to take away, to try to stop and let people go farther than in their thoughts maybe than sometimes I do, and instead of coming back with what my 2 bits are, But yeah, it was a enjoyable experience to hear from everybody, and
Sam?
I'd have to agree with Margie, trying to ask that open-ended question versus, and trying to understand instead of just trying to insert yourself and take away from your experiences and kind of fill in the gaps as to what that person's thinking or feeling, to really try to get their understanding.
Well, my favorite part was the fence thing, and, you know, just keeping in mind that you can have the same goal, but have different opinions on how that should happen, you know, I think that's a really good reminder. I gotta keep that one under my belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the extreme is when we look at the other people and think because they disagree with us, they're evil, or some are stupid, or
Right.
misinformed,
Right.
you know, and you can see, you get a group of all of us ordinary people here.
Yeah.
And we all want to get along. We all want the same things you were talking about. Good.
I like to think that I'm a good listener, but being an active listener, and I think that's a good way. Your phrases tell me more, and that's an active thing that I can do to help me listen. Because you always go, oh, you know, you got your own stuff going on in your head and stuff. So I think that's a good phrase to use.
I took away, no matter where you're at, we're all neighbors.
Wow, okay, bumper sticker. No matter where you're at, we're all neighbors.
We are, we're all neighbors.
All right, that's good.
The one thing that you said that struck me the most is to wait 30 seconds as my self descriptor went, like I try to take care of everything right as it's happening. And I like 30 seconds, just wait, read that email and wait 30 seconds before forming an opinion, letting whatever feelings
Yeah. Yeah,
happen.
raise your hand if you haven't regretted sending an email, you know, yeah. Okay.
Well, I think I enjoyed what Paul said, because I think sometimes we all have the same thoughts, but you're afraid to express it because you don't want people to think that you're, you know, when you talked about, you thought about the guys in the planes and stuff, and that's how I feel about shooters. And I think sometimes when you think you're the only one, you're not. You're not the only one. You know, so that, you know, maybe that would give you some peace of mind, but, you know.
Yeah, when someone has the bravery to speak up, then other people.
Right, and yeah. And it's not that you're a bad person for thinking that, but you have to go a little deeper. It's like you said, you know, understanding what happened to them 30 years ago in school, you know. It's there somewhere.
So making a statement that's very controversial is bravery.
Yeah. Calling you every
Is what
Monday
he's
is
gonna
bravery.
I didn't think I was scary.
I just felt bad.
Well, I've been hurt by some relationships, and so I definitely set up boundaries. I'm afraid to be hurt again. And I know at times we all get hurt. So, but I do set up boundaries, and I want to break those boundaries, to be more loving.
Right.
But your evening was I really enjoyed it.
And
you
you gave me the perfect ending right there. That's good. Now we're gonna hold hands and sing a Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe next spring or another time. We'll
Yeah.
go another time. Just
Yeah.
book me in and we'll start at a different point with a different piece of something to springboard off of, and we'll do it again.
It'd be great.
Bring your husband.
I'll try to.
Well, it's your 300 miles, so thank you for.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. That's a long ways in my book.
Yeah.
So to get to Great Falls, I go back to Fort Benton and then turn left, huh?
Well, yeah, you got to get up top and then you turn left. Yeah.
And yield is spelled wrong going
On
down.
the-
Downhill, yield is spelled wrong.
No.